Imagine a world where one woman has built an entire empire around power, fear, and control. Her name is Sumuru. She rules the hidden island nation of Femina like a queen, surrounded by beautiful women who are completely loyal to her. But behind the luxury and elegance is a dangerous plan that could change the balance of power across the entire world. The story begins with a mysterious organization operating in the shadows. Sumuru has spent years building her influence, secretly gathering resources and loyal followers while the governments of the world remain unaware of her true ambitions. She isn't interested in simply becoming rich. She wants power, and she believes the world would be better if men were no longer in control. Her ultimate plan is to create a new society ruled entirely by women. But achieving that goal requires eliminating the people who stand in her way. Meanwhile, two British agents, Nick West and Agent David, are sent to investigate a series of strange incidents connected to Sumuru's organization. They quickly discover that this isn't an ordinary criminal operation. Everywhere they look, powerful men are being targeted. Politicians, business leaders, military officials, people who once believed they were untouchable are suddenly finding themselves caught in Sumuru's web. The agents eventually trace the organization to Femina, a mysterious island controlled by Sumuru herself. The island appears almost like paradise. Beautiful architecture, luxury, powerful women everywhere, but beneath the surface is a heavily guarded operation. Sumuru has created a sophisticated network capable of manipulating governments and controlling powerful individuals. Nick and David realize they have walked directly into a trap. Sumuru knows they're investigating her, and instead of eliminating them immediately, she decides to use them. She understands that fear isn't always the most effective weapon. Sometimes temptation is far more powerful. The agents are surrounded by Sumuru's followers and brought before their mysterious leader. Sumuru is calm, confident, and completely in control. She explains her philosophy. For centuries, she believes men have controlled the world through war, greed, and violence. She claims that women could create a better civilization. But her solution is extreme. She doesn't want equality. She wants domination. And she is willing to destroy anyone who refuses to accept her vision. Nick realizes that Sumuru isn't simply a criminal mastermind. She's building an army. And Femina is only the beginning. The deeper the agents investigate, the more they discover about her plan. Sumuru has secretly developed a network of powerful weapons and agents capable of attacking major cities. Her goal is to create chaos among the world's governments and use that chaos to establish her own new order. But Nick and David aren't willing to let that happen. They begin secretly working against her from inside Femina. The problem is that Sumuru is always several steps ahead. She knows how to manipulate people. She knows how to exploit their weaknesses. And she knows that sometimes the easiest way to defeat an enemy is to make them believe they've already won. As Nick gets closer to the truth, he realizes that escaping Femina may be almost impossible. The island is heavily protected. Sumuru's followers are everywhere, and the woman controlling everything has no intention of allowing her secrets to reach the outside world. But Nick has discovered something Sumuru didn't expect. Her empire isn't as united as it appears. Some of her followers are beginning to question whether they truly believe in her vision. And if Nick can turn them against her, he may have one chance to stop Sumuru before her plan reaches the rest of the world. Nick realizes that fighting Sumuru from the outside won't be enough. He needs to understand how her organization works from within. So instead of trying to escape immediately, he begins secretly gathering information. He discovers that Sumuru's followers aren't simply ordinary soldiers. Many of them genuinely believe in her vision. They see her as a revolutionary leader who wants to destroy the corrupt system created by men. Others, however, are terrified of her. They obey because they know what happens to anyone who questions her authority. This division becomes Nick's greatest opportunity. Meanwhile, Sumuru moves closer to putting her plan into action. Her agents begin infiltrating powerful institutions around the world. The goal is to create enough instability that governments will become incapable of responding to her. Once the old order collapses, Sumuru intends to step forward with her own alternative. A world controlled by Femina. But Nick and David discover that the plan depends on a final operation. If they can stop that operation, Sumuru's entire strategy could collapse. The agents begin working with a few people inside Femina who have secretly turned against their leader. Together, they steal information about Sumuru's weapons and communication network. But their success doesn't last long. Sumuru discovers the betrayal. She immediately tightens security across the island. Nobody is allowed to leave. Every member of her organization is questioned. And Nick realizes that someone close to him may have revealed their secret. The situation becomes increasingly dangerous. Nick and David are forced to move through hidden passages and restricted areas while avoiding Sumuru's guards. Eventually, they find the control center responsible for coordinating the organization's global operations. If they destroy it, Sumuru will lose contact with her agents around the world. But getting inside won't be easy. The facility is protected by heavily armed guards and sophisticated security systems. Nick creates a distraction while David infiltrates the system. For a moment, everything goes according to plan. Then Sumuru appears. She has been expecting them. She tells Nick that he has misunderstood her. According to Sumuru, she isn't trying to destroy the world. She's trying to rebuild it. She believes humanity has been trapped in a cycle of violence for centuries, and she sees herself as the person capable of breaking that cycle. But Nick points out the contradiction. A society built through murder, fear, and forced obedience isn't freedom. It's simply another dictatorship. Sumuru refuses to accept this. She orders her followers to capture him. Nick fights his way through the guards while David continues working on the control system. The facility erupts into chaos. Explosions shake the building. Alarms begin sounding. Sumuru's carefully controlled empire starts falling apart. Her own followers begin turning against each other. Some try to protect her. Others realize that her dream has become something completely different from what they believed in. And as the system begins shutting down, Sumuru's final plan is placed in jeopardy. But she still has one last move. She activates the weapons that can destroy the people standing between her and total control. Now Nick has only one chance. He must stop Sumuru before she can launch the final attack. And this time, there is nowhere left for either of them to run. Nick knows he has only minutes before Sumuru's final operation begins. He and David race through the facility while alarms echo through the corridors. Everywhere they look, Sumuru's carefully controlled world is collapsing. Her followers are fighting, security systems are failing, and the communication network that once connected her entire organization is shutting down. But Sumuru refuses to surrender. She reaches the main control room and activates the final stage of her plan. Across the world, her agents are waiting for the signal. Once the command is transmitted, the attacks will begin. Nick reaches the control center just as the countdown starts. He confronts Sumuru one final time. She tells him that history will remember her as the woman who changed the world. Nick tells her that history will remember her as someone who tried to control it. The two struggle for control of the system. David works desperately to disable the launch sequence. The countdown continues. 10 seconds. 9. 8. Sumuru refuses to let go. Nick finally manages to overpower her and destroy the main control mechanism. The signal never reaches her agents. The planned attacks are stopped. Across the world, the threat disappears before it can become a global catastrophe. But Femina itself is now in chaos. Without Sumuru's leadership, the organization begins collapsing. The women who once followed her out of fear are finally free to decide their own futures. Nick searches for Sumuru, but she has disappeared. For a moment, it seems she may have escaped. Then he finds her near the edge of the island. Sumuru is no longer surrounded by guards. No army, no followers, no power, just the woman who once believed she could control the entire world. Nick gives her one final chance to surrender. She refuses. Rather than allow herself to be captured, Sumuru chooses her own fate. Her empire ends with her. The island that once represented her power becomes a symbol of everything she failed to achieve. Nick and David eventually leave Femina. The mission is over. The world is safe. But the experience has changed them. They've learned that the most dangerous enemies aren't always the ones with the biggest armies. Sometimes they're the people who convince others that their own vision is the only possible future. Sumuru believed she could create a perfect world by removing the people she considered responsible for its problems. But in trying to eliminate domination, she became a dictator herself. And that's ultimately what brings her empire down. Her greatest weakness wasn't a weapon. It wasn't an enemy agent. It was her belief that absolute control could ever create true freedom. By the end, Nick and David return home knowing that the world will probably never hear the full story of what happened on Femina. But they know the truth. A secret empire nearly changed the balance of power across the globe. And it was stopped before it was too late. Sumuru wanted to become the ruler of a new world. Instead, she became the final victim of the world she tried to control. The danger may be over, but Nick knows that the consequences of what happened on Femina won't disappear overnight. The authorities begin investigating Sumuru's organization and the people who helped her build the secret empire. Evidence recovered from the island reveals just how far her influence had spread. What looked like an isolated operation was actually part of a much larger network. For years, Sumuru had been preparing for the moment when she could challenge the world's existing governments. She had money, technology, loyal followers, and most importantly, she had convinced people that her cause was worth fighting for. But once her plan failed, that loyalty disappeared almost instantly. Some followers flee, others surrender, and a few finally admit that they had been afraid of Sumuru for years. Nick realizes that stopping her was only half the mission. The real challenge is making sure nothing like her organization can rise again. David begins turning over the evidence they recovered, while Nick prepares to leave Femina behind. Before they go, Nick takes one final look at the island. The beautiful beaches and luxurious buildings now seem completely different. What once looked like paradise was actually a fortress built around one person's obsession with power. And that becomes the final lesson of the story. Sumuru believed that controlling people would create a perfect society. But control only created fear. She believed that destroying the old system would automatically create something better. But without freedom, any new system can become just as corrupt as the one it replaces. Her downfall comes from the same thing that made her powerful: her refusal to compromise. She couldn't accept disagreement, she couldn't tolerate betrayal, and she couldn't imagine a world where someone else might have a better idea. In the end, that obsession isolates her from everyone. Nick and David finally leave the island. The mission is officially over. But somewhere in the distance, the last remnants of Sumuru's empire are still burning. The world will move forward without knowing how close it came to a completely different future. And Nick understands that sometimes the greatest victory isn't defeating an enemy in battle. It's preventing their dangerous ideas from spreading. Sumuru wanted to create a world where she controlled everything. Instead, she lost everything. Her organization collapsed. Her followers abandoned her. Her plan failed. And her dream of ruling the world disappeared with the empire she spent years building. What remains is a simple warning. Power without limits eventually destroys the person holding it. And when someone believes they alone know what is best for everyone, the line between saving the world and controlling it can disappear very quickly.